Let's just make sure we are 100% clear. The number one, and number one to the point of overriding 2, 3, 4, 5 to a 6,000. The number one reason why they're doing this is good old cash. Okay, that's the most important thing. So if you're over here like thinking, oh, well, this rivalry can be maintained. Oh, well, that rivalry maintained. That doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. None of it makes sense. Okay, if you look at a map of where West Virginia is. Okay, why are they in the Big 12? Why did they come over? Same reason why people do anything in most reasons. Money. Well, look who it is. Look who's back. And I'm going to let you know right now, okay, the universe just dropped a bomb for us. We're going to get into that in a second here. For everybody out there, first time being here, this is Master Football. All things college football, all things NFL football, all things video game football, anything related to American football for all my international fans. Anything related to that, we discuss that on this show. College football, I've been a little light on college football videos in the past. Not now. We got a big one for you. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that red subscribe button. I would really appreciate that. Please hit the like button. Please hit the share button. Let's go ahead and get into the video. Okay, so we got ourselves an absolute bomb here. There is a ton to unpack. There's 10,000 different directions we can go with this conversation, but we are going to talk ahead first and foremost about the news story that dropped recently. Let's go ahead and talk about that right now. Boom, CBSSports.com, your boy Barrett Sallee an hour ago. Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC. Live news updates as Big 12 powers kickstart conference realignment. So we see here Texas right now, the SEC currently sitting at 14 teams. The SEC is the Southeast region, whereas the Big 12 is kind of the center card, the kind of heartland spot. Well, what is happening is Oklahoma and Texas have decided, you know what? We are kind of dissatisfied with holding up this Big 12 this whole time. We would make a lot more money if we were in the SEC. We're going to go ahead and head on down there. So you see here, there's a lot of stuff here. So apparently they've been talking for the last 6 months about this. They've been talking for the last 6 months. It just came out recently. Think about this. This is how the timing all came out. SEC Media Days came out recently, and that means all the teams gathered together, all 14 institutions, and more than likely somebody leaked this. So we've got a couple different schools here, one of them being Texas A&M, most likely being the team that leaked this. Think about that. So Texas A&M was in the Big 12. They're like, you know what, to hell with Texas, we're out of here. We don't like what they're doing with the Big Longhorn Network and so on. They go to the SEC. They love it because they're the only source of SEC football if you want to play in the state of Texas. If Texas comes over, they'd be upset at that. Obviously, Oklahoma, whatever, nobody really cares. But, well, people do care. But I'm saying that Texas A&M is mad at Texas, not mad at Oklahoma. Both of those teams come in. It would create a 16-team mega conference. That is absolutely wild. However, that leaves a corpse to be pillaged, to be regrown. What's going on with the Big 12? So our dear friends over at the Big 12, there's a lot of things going on right now. So as it stands right now, the Big 12, hold on, give me a second to pull up my members right now. So the Big 12 members, okay, so we have Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Baylor, TCU, Iowa State, and West Virginia. So we see this right here. There's a couple different reports that are out there going to see what's going to happen. So you see this right here. It looks like the group of 5 is looking to poach some of those teams. The American Athletic Conference is going to go out there and they're like, you know what? We've got 8 teams to pillage from. We could add those teams to our teams right now. So if you see this, the AAC is currently sitting at an 11-team conference. That is schools from the Southeast, UCF, South Florida, East Carolina, Tulane, stretches up to Philly, up to the Midwest, into Cincinnati, Wichita State, and programs in Texas, Houston, and SMU. Adding some of these schools in would make a lot of sense for them. We go here to the map. This is the map of the athletic conference, so the American Athletic Conference. So you see here, so we've got Tulsa, SMU. Okay, let me get out of the way. Tulsa, SMU, Houston. So it would be that would add TCU, Texas Tech, and Baylor. So all 3 of these. So they'd have Dallas, they'd have Lubbock, and then they'd have wherever the hell Baylor is at. And then they would add Oklahoma State in addition to Kansas and Kansas State. That would make a ton of sense. Also, Iowa State is out here. West Virginia is out here too. However, I want to make sure we comment on West Virginia really quickly because there's a lot of reports right now. I'm going to let you know right now. Everybody pay attention to this, and I'm going to come off of this really quickly. There's a lot of news out there because Texas and Oklahoma came over to the SEC. Everything else is on the table at this point. We have to make sure we understand some things. So when you're thinking about realignment, I think a lot of fans think about realignment from a fan's perspective. Okay, you think about that for like, ooh, what would make most sense, like geography-wise or rivalry-wise or this or that. They would think of like that. That's how they've been thinking. Think about this. Oklahoma and Texas are not coming over to renew the Oklahoma and Missouri rivalry in the SEC or to renew the Texas and Arkansas rivalry in the SEC. That's not where they're coming over, okay? Let's just make sure we are 100% clear. The number one, and number one to the point of overriding 2, 3, 4, 5 to a 6,000. The number one reason why they're doing this is good old cash, okay? That's the most important thing. So if you're over here like thinking, oh, well, this rivalry can be maintained. Oh, well, that rivalry maintained. That doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. None of it makes sense, okay? If you look at a map of where West Virginia is, okay? Why are they in the Big 12? Why did they come over? Same reason why people do anything in most reasons. Money, okay? I have my booklet right here, okay? My handy dandy booklet, okay? I have my team/conference considerations, okay? There's 1, 2, 3, and then 4, okay? 1 is miles ahead of the other ones, okay? So number 1 is money, okay? You want to make sure that you have money. That the money's got to be there. The eyeballs mean dollar signs, okay? That's what everybody's been talking about right now because the reason why Oklahoma and Texas are coming over, SEC is the biggest, they would be adding to that pot because if you're an SEC institution, you have to remember, hey, if we have to cut our pot up 14 ways, now we have to cut our pot up 16 ways. So whoever comes in has to grow that pot. Oklahoma and Texas are huge draws, so they are going to grow that pot. So the Big 12, the AAC loves to add those other teams. And yeah, perfect. We'll take it and bring it on, because they're going to be adding to that pot. Think about that. Number 1, money. And it will override a lot. It will override hundreds of years of history. They don't care. They want money, number 1. Number 2 is competition. You have to be competitive. Now that feeds into number 1 because the reason why you bring in money is because people watch you. The reason why people watch you is because you're competitive. You're entertaining in some way, okay? Number 2 is competition. Number 3 is geography. It has to make some sense, but realistically, it really doesn't. That will be overridden if the money is right, okay? West Virginia will join the Big 12. They'll travel down to Lubbock, Texas. They'll go to Dallas. They don't care because they want to make sure they get that cheddar cheese. Okay, so that's number 1, money. Number 2, competition. Number 3 is geography, and geography is a little very far away from 1 and very far away from 2. And then number 4 is all the other crap. Okay, and I say all the other crap to be serious here because it is all crap. Oh, well, this rivalry. Oh, this doesn't matter. Okay, money number 1, competition in connection to money. Geography helps a little bit, and then everything else, who cares? You figure it out. Okay, figure it out. So of those 8 teams I have right here, so I have Kansas, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Baylor, TCU, Iowa State, and West Virginia. So from reports I'm seeing right now, the most likely out of all of those to not stay in the Big 12 is going to be West Virginia. So you can see here in this article here from Heartland College Sports, Heather Dinich actually has a quote here where she says, it makes a lot of sense financially for West Virginia to join the ACC from a travel aspect, geographic location. But here's the thing. Does the ACC want West Virginia? The ACC has to want West Virginia. I'm going to go operate under the assumption that the West Virginia is out, okay? That doesn't make any sense for them to continue on there. It might if they add in Cincinnati or this team or that team or something like that. They poach teams that way. But West Virginia staying in the Big 12, it really puts a stress on the whole situation. I, for right now, have them out heading to the ACC. It would make a lot of sense. They would maintain the rivalry with Pittsburgh. They would maintain the rivalry with Louisville. It would be a really, really cool thing to kind of see that. And at the same time, they would be an addition there. The ACC has to want them, but I think it would be a good addition there from a competition perspective that can hopefully help out that money perspective. Okay, so there we are. So we have 8 teams. Now we have 7, okay? Let's do it real quick. Let's just cross them out. West Virginia is out, okay? There also was a report that Iowa State to join the Big 10. Again, let's talk about the Big 10 right now because this is a huge wrench in this whole situation. So here we are, Yahoo.com, Nittany Lions Wire. The big question for the Big 10, should the Big 10 even expand? Kevin McGuire, he's got this report, basically comes down here, he basically states, okay, so the Big 10, when you look back there, they added Maryland and they added Rutgers recently, okay? They added Rutgers because they want access to that New York market. They added Maryland to add access to that Washington, D.C. and Baltimore market. However, if you're thinking about this, what market do they want to add? Does the Big 10 want to add a, Lawrence, Kansas market? Do they want to go all the way to Iowa State, to Ames, Iowa? Does that do a lot for them? I know that Iowa State adds a lot in terms of, a rivalry with Iowa and so on and so forth. But that's about it. And again, make sure money has to work out first. Are you adding to the pot first? You have to make sure you do that. That's the number one calculation you have to do when you're doing this sort of thing. Okay. So there we are. We have it right now. So Iowa State probably not going to leave, okay? There's also been talk Kansas would like to go to the Big Ten. They would love to, but will the Big Ten take them? So I'm going to say that right here. So here's what we have. If we review the remaining schools, okay? Kansas, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Baylor, TCU, Iowa State. Baylor and Texas Christian, Baylor and TCU are religious institutions. I, therefore, in the same way that BYU was considering going to the Pac-12, there's a lot of religious things that kind of hold that back. I think the same thing will happen to Baylor and TCU. There was a report they might go to the Pac-12. Again, I'm going to let everybody know right now, everything's off the table. All right, no, excuse me. Everything's on the table, okay? Everything at this point. So what do you do if you are the Big 12? If you're the Big 12 remaining members, so you've got 7. I'm assuming that West Virginia is going to go. You've got 7 remaining members, okay? What's your best option? I am here going to say, I do not believe that adding yourself to the American Conference is going to make sense. Here's why. We'll go into it real quick. So the American Conference, you're going to have UCF, which is a really, really high-profile football program right now. We have to remember, a couple years ago, they were 13-0. A couple years before that, they were 0-12. UCF is very, very volatile. They're a very big university, huge. I think they have like 50,000 plus students or something like that. Very big university, okay? But then you've got East Carolina, you've got Tulane, you've got a couple schools that are going to be dragging you down, okay? I don't think that adding yourself to the American Conference is going to solve the solutions or solve the situations for those remaining 7 members. Here's what I think they should do instead. I think what they should do is they should expand. There's a couple different people, and I think this is what they should do. Okay, so what I think the Big 12 members should do. Okay, we have Kansas, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Baylor, TCU, Iowa State. Here's what I think they should do. I think that right there is a pretty solid conference for a couple reasons. Okay, Baylor was the number 1 team in college basketball. Kansas is a perennial power, had a down year, and they were number 16. Oklahoma State was number 19. Okay, Iowa State had a terrible year in basketball, but they have a very good football program, finished top 10 this last season. TCU is usually, they're never down for long under Gary Patterson. They've got a lot of stuff going for them. They're in the Fort Worth market. They're in that Dallas area. They've got a lot of fertile recruiting ground. Okay, Kansas State is a pretty solid football program. Again, up and down every once in a while, but there's a lot to work with there. Here's what I think they should do. There's one team that they need to add without even thinking about it before they do anything else. Okay, the team they need to add is the good old Houston Cougars. Okay, they were the number 3 team in NCAA basketball to finish the season. Really, really good football program. I think they should add them. That puts them at 8. So if you add them in there, that's 8. I also think they need to add Memphis. Big reason why I think they should add Memphis. So they have a solid basketball program, solid football program. Both of those are solid. Okay, in that same, center of the country kind of region, we have to remember that Memphis is on the west side of Tennessee. So it's West Tennessee. So it's pretty easy for travel for a lot of those things. Okay, but they would add those to them. So you'd have what was that? That would be 8, 9, and then you're left with. Here's where it gets a little interesting. Okay, there's 3 schools that you could add to them for a couple different reasons. Tulsa, Rice, SMU. Reason being, okay, SMU is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Okay, Rice is in the Houston area, and Tulsa is in the Tulsa area. So if you are trying to sell this out here, I think your best bet from a competition perspective is probably Tulsa. They've been the most regularly good out of all those teams. SMU's had some good football. Oh, they're trying. You might consider one of them. But I think that I would go with Tulsa. So think about this. So you'd have all of Kansas would be locked up for the most part, okay? You'd have Oklahoma State and you'd have Tulsa. So you'd have a good share of the Oklahoma City markets and the Tulsa markets. You'd have Houston. You'd have the Houston market. You'd have the Dallas market. You'd have whatever fans there are from Baylor and TCU. You'd have a lot of stuff going on. So that's 10 teams. That is a dominant basketball conference, a huge basketball conference. Now, here's where it gets interesting, okay? And I'm being a homer. I'm sorry. There's 2 football-only members you got to add, okay? First one, these guys right here, okay? You add them for football only. They're reasonably in the center of the country. Boise, it's pretty easy flights down there to Dallas and things like that. So it's not too difficult for there. Boise State's got a good recruiting hold in Texas, and it's pretty easy travel there. The other team they add, football only, would be BYU. Now, you have to remember, BYU, unfortunately, thinks that they're Notre Dame. So they're the kind of team that I think they want to keep their network and kind of have their cake and eat it too. The really cool thing about this is, and the reason why you do this is, would you rather put your Kansas basketball brand or your Oklahoma State football brand or your TCU football brand or your Baylor basketball or football brand? Would you rather take them to the American, or would you rather uplift the certain teams that you like from the American to your team, maybe out a couple of teams from the West Coast, create a 12-team football conference and a 10-team regular everything other sport conference, and that'd be awesome. I mean, you'd have 4 top flight teams in college basketball, 4 top flight teams in college basketball. And you'd have, I mean, BYU would just finish 16th this last year in football. Boise State's a national brand. You've got a lot of eyeballs for you. So I know I'm an absolute homer. I get it. I'm a Boise State fan. We're trying to get out of the Mountain West Conference. It's like, it's really cool to be the Alabama of the Mountain West Conference. I know they didn't win it this last year, but let's be honest, okay? We think we've won like half the championships in the last couple of years. But I'm trying to make sure, okay? Big 12, okay? You're not dead yet, okay? There's a lot of things here. I think you need to stick together. Everybody there needs to stick together, okay? And you need to uplift. That way you can get a couple different markets in there. You'd have Houston, Dallas, Oklahoma City, Tulsa. You'd have Kansas City. You'd have Memphis. You'd have the international market with BYU. You'd have Boise, Idaho, one of the fastest growing cities in the country. You'd have a lot going for you there. So thank you again. I know absolute perfection, brilliant ideas come up from me, but no. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think. Remember, let me know what you think in the comments. Prioritize this. Prioritize money number 1. I don't care about fit. I don't care about this rivalry or that rivalry. Money number 1. Competition number 2, but only in connection to money. And then geography number 3. Okay, geography can be overcome. But remember, it has to have the overwhelming amount of money has to be to overcome that. So let me know what you guys think. All right, thank you guys so much for being here. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments. I have all the articles referenced in those comments. And if you have any news, let me know, okay? Because right now news is just pouring in. So I will see you guys on Wednesday. I'm out.